It's my pleasure to welcome back Veronika Hirsch to Small Cap Power. Veronika, it's great to see you again.
My pleasure to be here.
Now, the last time you spoke was late 2015. For the remainder of 2016, what should investors be wary of?
So there's a lot of problems, obviously, ahead of us this year. First of all, you're starting with Brexit. The numbers have been actually not looking very good. The polls are showing that the leave side is looking like it's increasing. If Britain were to leave Europe, it would affect Europe. Obviously, would not be a catastrophe in the long run. In the short run, it would have severe repercussions. Then you have the elections in the US. We have two candidates. Yes, they're popular with their constituency, but otherwise, with the larger population, they're not particularly popular. And then, of course, you have Yellen. Janet's been back and forth, being dovish, and then looking like she's hawkish, and then so that is not great for the market. Market likes to know exactly what's coming up, and right now we don't know if she's going to go in July, if she's going to go at all, if she's going to go in September. That's not great for the market. So these are all things that are, I think, going to keep the market volatile for the rest of the year.
And I know right now you're managing the Exemplar Canadian Focus portfolio. What's its objective?
So it's a little bit different from other mutual funds in that it's got a lot more flexibility. So as an example, I can short up to 40%, which is rare for a mutual fund. Usually it's hedge funds that can only do that. I have very much flexibility in terms of foreign content, provided it's less than 50% because it's a Canadian fund. Cash, I have been aggressively going in and out of cash, so I can be up to 60% cash or zero. So I kind of look at sectors that I like and don't like, and then just invest in those sectors, and I can ignore a bunch of them that are in the index. So it's a little different than the usual mutual fund.
Right, and once I looked at the overview, I saw it's doing really well. What makes you successful?
I'm very thematic, so I like picking themes and then structuring the portfolio so it fits the themes. And provided I get the themes right, then my stock picks are concentrated in the themes that are working as opposed to kind of being all over the map.
Last time you mentioned to us that you're interested and you liked the energy sector. Do you still see great opportunities?
I wish I had listened to myself and been more aggressive on buying on the bottom. The energy sectors had an incredible move. All of the commodities had a great move. There is nothing particularly cheap. So my approach has been to have a sort of a balance between very high quality names and then fiddling around, meaning clean balance sheets like Raging River, right? They're in a position to be making acquisitions, right? Sort of at the bottom of the market. It's not quite the bottom. So that would be one name. And then there's a variety of names whose balance sheet's not great, but you can get nice sort of trades out of it. This is a good opportunity for highly leveraged energy names. They can do an equity issue right now, they can sell assets and not get rock bottom prices. I would recommend a couple of those names that perhaps don't have a horrible balance sheet, but maybe one that needs cleaning up and are actually actively cleaning it up.
Okay. And give us some of your top picks, because we're all interested in that.
So one of the names I've been really following and I have been buying is MacDonald Dettwiler. Those are the Canadarm folks. This year's not been a great cycle for satellites. For whatever reason, there hasn't been a lot of contracts awarded. So that means the stock's not expensive. They've restructured, which is apparently a unique structure they've generated, because in the US, you cannot get military contracts unless you're a US company. Now, they're obviously a Canadian company. They want to stay a Canadian company. But they've arrived at a structure that seems to be working for the US. And so now, starting in September, hopefully they'll be eligible to bid on military contracts. And, they're talking big numbers, like potentially there's $1 billion to $2 billion of contracts. And they also hired a new CEO who's American, because that's one of the requirements that they have to have an American CEO. They actually have not gotten all the approvals. They haven't Americanized yet officially.
Another stock at all?
I still like Raging River. I wouldn't be buying it today, but I think they probably will make a couple of more acquisitions before before the oil price really runs away.
Last time we spoke, we talked a lot about the Chinese economy, but currently we don't hear so much about it in the headlines. Does it still affect us? What's going on?
Yes, it does. The Chinese government has been very good at sort of managing to get a growth recession. So things are not great, but things are perhaps not as awful as people were worried about. The banking system needs to clean up the bad loans, but it's one of those things that can be postponed and obviously is being postponed. I see that as one of the major problems. They will have to tackle that at some point, but in the meanwhile, they just kind of, we're all hoping that India will come and take over from China, but I'm not seeing that commitment to building infrastructure in India to the same extent as Chinese have done, and obviously that would prevent the similar kind of growth that China has had.
Because India does have a great young population, but the infrastructure isn't there.
India could definitely take over from China, but I think they don't have the same. There's many things that are really wrong with central managed economies, but some things are good about it. And one of the things is that you can sort of get a really good infrastructure, and the Chinese have been terrific at it. You can build really great plants all over India, but if you can't get stuff moving from one place to another, that's obviously an impediment to good economic growth. And I think that's kind of where India has failed, where China has done a much better job.
Well, Veronika, thank you so much for taking the time for today's interview.
My pleasure.
For more expert interviews, make sure you check out smallcappower.com. I'm Rachel Lee for Small Cap Power.